Stop scrolling. Right now. Look at these four auras on your screen. The blazing sun, the silver mist, the stone wall, the shadow veil. Choose one. Don't overthink it. Your first instinct matters. Your choice reveals your energetic signature, the unconscious force field you project that determines who approaches you, who fears you, and who tries to dominate you. In 1513, Niccolò Machiavelli wrote observations about what he called the invisible armor of power. He identified four distinct auras that rulers projected, and how these energy signatures determined their political survival. Comment on your choice now. 1, 2, 3, or 4. Because once you understand your natural aura, every social dynamic you've ever experienced will suddenly make perfect sense. Let me take you back to Renaissance Italy. Niccolò Machiavelli spent 14 years observing rulers, diplomats, warriors, and merchants. He documented something that modern psychology would later call presence or charisma. But Machiavelli understood it strategically. He noticed that powerful people projected what he called un'aria di comando, an air of command, an invisible force that preceded them into every room. This wasn't about physical appearance. Machiavelli documented dozens of physically unremarkable people who commanded absolute respect, and dozens of beautiful, well-dressed people who were completely ignored. The difference was their aura, their energetic signature. In chapter 19 of The Prince, he wrote, "A prince must make himself felt in such a manner that he is never held in contempt. The manner of being felt begins before words are spoken. Before words are spoken." He understood that humans communicate through energy before language, that your presence announces your power level before you open your mouth. Modern psychology calls this nonverbal communication, or body language, but it's deeper than that. It's the frequency you broadcast, the energy field you generate, the invisible signal that tells others whether you're a threat, an opportunity, or irrelevant. 400 years after Machiavelli, Carl Jung would describe these as psychological atmospheres that people project unconsciously. But Machiavelli identified the four specific aura patterns that determine social survival: the sovereign, the advisor, the sentinel, the phantom. Different names for different energy signatures. You chose your aura symbol instinctively. That choice reveals the frequency you naturally broadcast and how the world unconsciously responds to you. We'll decode each aura, each energy pattern, each power frequency, and I'll reveal the social trap your aura keeps creating and how to weaponize your natural presence instead of being victimized by it. Let's begin. The blazing sun, the sovereign. If you chose the blazing sun, you are the sovereign. Your aura is commanding, magnetic, impossible to ignore. When you enter a room, people notice. Not because you demand attention, but because your energy naturally draws focus. You radiate authority whether you intend to or not. This isn't arrogance. This is your energetic signature. The sovereign projects what Machiavelli called presenza regale, royal presence, the invisible signal that says, "I am significant. I matter. Pay attention." In modern terms, you're the person who gets served first at restaurants without asking, who gets listened to in meetings even when others said the same thing, who gets remembered after brief encounters. People unconsciously defer to your energy. Let me tell you about Lorenzo de' Medici, called Lorenzo the Magnificent. Lorenzo wasn't particularly tall. He wasn't conventionally handsome. Contemporary descriptions say he had a weak chin and spoke with a nasal voice. But when Lorenzo entered the Palazzo Vecchio, the entire Florentine council fell silent. Why? His aura was pure sovereign energy. He carried himself as though Florence belonged to him, and unconsciously, everyone agreed. Machiavelli, who observed Lorenzo's son Piero, wrote, "The father possessed an air that made men believe he deserved power. The son possessed the title but not the presence. One ruled, the other was tolerated." This is the sovereign's power. Your energy communicates that you deserve respect, authority, and attention, and most people unconsciously comply. But here's what Machiavelli discovered about the sovereign aura, and this is the trap that's been creating enemies for you. Dominant presence attracts dominant challenges. When you project sovereign energy, two things happen simultaneously. First, most people defer to you automatically. They unconsciously treat you as the leader, the authority, the person who matters most. Second, other sovereign energies see you as a threat, as competition, as someone who must be dominated or destroyed. Your aura says, "I am the alpha," and every other alpha in the room hears that as a challenge. Lorenzo de' Medici understood this. Despite his commanding presence, he was constantly targeted by rival families. The Pazzi conspiracy of 1478 was an assassination attempt during Easter Mass. Lorenzo survived. His brother Giuliano was stabbed 19 times. Why? Because Lorenzo's sovereign aura made him impossible to ignore. You can't have two suns in the same sky. This is your pattern. Your commanding presence opens doors, but it also paints targets on your back. In modern contexts, you're the person who gets promoted quickly, but also who gets undermined by insecure colleagues. You're the individual everyone wants to befriend, but also the one certain people inexplicably hate despite never having wronged them. Your energy triggers unconscious dominance competitions. People either submit to your presence or try to destroy it. But here's the strategic adaptation Machiavelli prescribed. Radiate authority, distribute credit. Your sovereign aura is your power. Don't diminish it, but learn to deflect the spotlight strategically to avoid creating enemies. Lorenzo mastered this. Yes, he projected a commanding presence, but he constantly credited others publicly for successes he orchestrated privately. Artists? He called them geniuses while funding their work. Advisors? He praised their wisdom while implementing his own plans. Military victories? He honored the generals while controlling the strategy. His aura said, "I am powerful." His words said, "We are powerful together." This neutralized threats. Potential rivals couldn't justify attacking him because he appeared collaborative despite his dominant energy. If you're the sovereign, here's your adaptation. Let your presence command the room, but let your words elevate others. Your energy will communicate your dominance anyway. Your language should create allies instead of enemies. When you succeed, publicly credit your team even when it was your vision. Your sovereign aura already tells everyone you're the leader. The verbal credit costs you nothing but buys you loyalty. When you enter social spaces, acknowledge other strong presences immediately. A simple nod, brief eye contact, the energetic equivalent of, "I see you and I'm not threatened by you." When you speak in groups, occasionally defer to others even when you know you're right. Your aura already established your authority. The strategic silence makes you seem wise instead of domineering. Machiavelli wrote in chapter 23, "A prince should make himself loved in such a way that if he does not gain fear, he at least avoids hatred." For the sovereign, this means your presence already creates fear, meaning respect. Make sure it doesn't create hatred. The sovereign's law: command through presence, collaborate through language. If you chose the blazing sun, if you felt drawn to it because people always notice you whether you want them to or not, then comment below. I am the sovereign. Claim your aura. Because understanding that you naturally dominate spaces means you can learn to dominate without creating enemies. But remember, the sovereign's natural trap is attracting challenges from other dominants. The counter-aura that defeats you is the phantom. Someone who avoids your direct confrontation, operates invisibly, and undermines you through channels your commanding presence never notices. We'll reveal that aura last. First, let's decode the second energy signature, the silver mist, the advisor. If you chose the silver mist, you are the advisor. Your aura is subtle, persuasive, impossible to resist once engaged. You don't command attention when you enter a room. You gain it gradually, almost without people noticing. Your energy says, I am safe, I am helpful, I am on your side. This is strategic presence. The advisor projects what Machiavelli called presenza umile, humble presence. But don't mistake humble for weak. Your aura is designed to disarm, to slip past defenses, to position yourself as indispensable before anyone realizes you've gained influence. In modern terms, you're the person people confide in without knowing why. Who gets consulted on important decisions? Who shapes outcomes while others take the spotlight? Your energy creates trust automatically. Let me tell you about Francesco Guicciardini, Machiavelli's contemporary and sometime rival. Guicciardini held numerous high positions: papal governor, ambassador, military commissioner. But unlike Lorenzo's commanding presence, Guicciardini entered rooms almost invisibly. Contemporary accounts describe him as forgettable at first meeting, quiet, unassuming. But within an hour of conversation, princes and popes found themselves sharing confidences they'd never intended to reveal. His aura said, I am no threat. I am merely here to help. And powerful people unconsciously trusted him with their secrets, their fears, their vulnerabilities. Machiavelli wrote about men like Guicciardini. Some men take power by force. Others take it by making powerful men believe they need them. This is the advisor's strength. Your subtle energy doesn't trigger dominance competitions. People don't see you as a rival. They see you as a resource. And by the time they realize how much influence you've accumulated, you've become too valuable to eliminate. But here's the trap Machiavelli identified, and this is what destroys advisors who don't adapt. Subtle influence without visible power creates disposability. When you operate exclusively through subtle presence, you gain influence but not credit. You shape decisions, but don't get remembered for shaping them. And when power structures shift, when new rulers take over, when organizations restructure, you're vulnerable. Because nobody remembers what you contributed. Your subtle aura ensured you were never seen as the source of success. Francesco Guicciardini experienced this himself. Despite decades of service, when the Medici family finally fell from power, Guicciardini had no independent power base. He'd always been the invisible advisor, never the visible leader. He died in relative obscurity, despite having influenced some of the most important political decisions in Italian history. His subtle aura gave him access, but not legacy. This is your pattern. You gain influence everywhere, but often get overlooked when rewards are distributed. Your energy positions you as the helper, not the hero. In modern contexts, you're the person whose ideas get implemented, but attributed to others. Who does the real work while someone with sovereign energy takes the credit? Who gets consulted constantly, but promoted rarely? Your subtle aura gives you access, but makes you forgettable. Here's the strategic adaptation. Advise subtly, document publicly. Your advisor aura is your superpower for gaining trust and access. Don't change that, but add visible evidence of your contributions. Guicciardini should have written more, published more, made his influence visible in ways that didn't threaten the people he advised. Machiavelli understood this. He operated as an advisor for years, but he also wrote The Prince, ensuring his ideas would outlive his political position. His subtle advisory work got him access. His visible writing got him immortality. If you're the advisor, here's your adaptation. Continue your subtle influence, but create visible proof of your value. Write the strategy memo that gets circulated. Give the presentation that others reference. Publish the analysis that demonstrates your insight. Your aura makes people trust you. Your documentation makes them remember you. When you advise someone toward a decision, follow up with a written summary. Not to take credit aggressively, but to create a paper trail showing your contribution. When you shape an outcome, find a way to make your process visible. Teach it, share it, document it. Not with sovereign dominance, but with advisor generosity that happens to demonstrate your value. When you influence a success, don't demand credit loudly, but don't hide your involvement completely. A subtle, "I'm glad the approach we discussed worked out," reminds people of your contribution without triggering ego threats. Machiavelli wrote in The Prince, "The first method for estimating the intelligence of a ruler is to look at the men he has around him." For the advisor, this means, make sure your presence around powerful people is noticed. Your subtle aura gains you access. Strategic visibility ensures you get remembered. The advisor's law: influence subtly, document strategically. If you chose the silver mist, if you felt drawn to it because you prefer to shape outcomes without seeking spotlight, then comment below, "I am the advisor." Claim your aura, because understanding that you naturally disarm and influence means you can add visibility without losing your subtle power. But remember, the advisor's trap is disposability despite influence. The counter aura that defeats you is the Sentinel, someone who doesn't trust your subtle energy, who sees your helpfulness as manipulation, who blocks your access through rigid boundaries. Let's reveal that aura now, the stone wall, the Sentinel. If you chose the stone wall, you are the Sentinel. Your aura is protective, formidable, impossible to manipulate. When you enter a space, you don't seek attention and you don't offer warmth. Your energy says, "I am self-sufficient. I am not an easy target. Do not test me." This is defensive presence. The Sentinel projects what Machiavelli called presenza difensiva, defensive presence. The invisible signal that says, "I protect what is mine, and I do not submit." In modern terms, you're the person others hesitate to approach casually, who doesn't get manipulated by sob stories or flattery, who maintains clear boundaries without explaining them. People instinctively respect your space because your aura enforces it. Let me tell you about Caterina Sforza, who we discussed before, but now through the lens of her aura rather than her romantic pattern. Caterina was Countess of Forlì. Multiple armies tried to conquer her territories. Multiple conspirators tried to manipulate or intimidate her. None succeeded. Why? Her aura was pure Sentinel energy. She projected such absolute unwillingness to submit that most potential attackers reconsidered before even attempting. When Cesare Borgia's army approached her fortress, his generals reported that Caterina stood on the battlements, visible but untouchable, projecting such fierce defensive energy that soldiers questioned whether the fortress was worth the casualties. Machiavelli, who was present during these campaigns, wrote, "She possessed a presence that made men believe she would rather die than yield. This belief made many unwilling to test whether it was true. This is the Sentinel's power. Your aura communicates that you are not worth the effort to dominate, that attempting to control you will cost more than it gains. Most people unconsciously choose easier targets. But here's the trap Machiavelli identified, and this is what destroys Sentinels who don't adapt. Impenetrable defense prevents valuable connection. When you project Sentinel energy constantly, you don't just repel threats, you repel opportunities. People who could help you, who could collaborate with you, who could offer genuine friendship or partnership, stay away. Not because they're threats, but because your aura says, stay back, without distinguishing between enemies and allies. Caterina Sforza experienced this. Her defensive presence protected her from conquest, but it also left her isolated. She had few genuine allies because her energy made alliance feel like submission. When she finally fell, it wasn't because someone broke through her defenses. It was because she fought alone against overwhelming force, having unconsciously pushed away potential supporters through decades of uncompromising Sentinel energy. She died in a Roman prison, having successfully defended herself into isolation. This is your pattern. Your protective aura keeps you safe from manipulation and exploitation. But it also keeps you safe from collaboration and connection. In modern contexts, you're the person who doesn't get scammed, but also doesn't get invited, who maintains independence, but often handles challenges alone that could be easier with help, who has strong boundaries, but few deep relationships. Your defensive energy protects you from everything, including opportunity. Here's the strategic adaptation. Project defense, permit alliance. Your Sentinel aura is your protection. Don't dissolve it, but learn to lower the shield strategically for proven allies. Caterina should have created a system for differentiating between threats and potential partners, a way to maintain her formidable presence toward enemies while signaling availability toward allies. Machiavelli understood this. In The Prince, chapter 21, he wrote, "A prince is also esteemed when he is a true friend or a true enemy, when he declares himself without hesitation for one side or against another." For the Sentinel, this means your defensive aura should be directional, not omnidirectional. If you're the Sentinel, here's your adaptation. Maintain your protective presence as your default setting, but develop clear signals for when you're open to alliance. Create explicit criteria for trust. Don't make people guess whether they're threats or potential allies. Make it clear. These are my boundaries. Respect them, and we can work together. Cross them, and face my full defensive force. Your aura already communicates strength. Add clarity so people know how to approach you without triggering your defenses. When someone demonstrates respect for your boundaries consistently, actively signal your receptiveness. Your Sentinel energy won't naturally do this, so it must be conscious. A deliberate smile. Initiating conversation first. Sharing something personal. These small signals tell trustworthy people, "You have passed my evaluation. You may approach." When you're in safe environments with proven allies, consciously soften your defensive aura. Not completely, but enough to allow collaboration. Your Sentinel presence protects you from strangers. Your strategic softening allows you to benefit from friends. Think of your aura like a fortress. Fortresses need walls toward enemies, but they also need gates toward allies. Right now, your energy is all wall, no gates. Add gates, with guards. That open selectively. The Sentinel's law. Defend fiercely, ally strategically. If you chose the stone wall, if you felt drawn to it because you value self-protection and refuse to be manipulated, then comment below. I am the Sentinel. Claim your aura. Because understanding that you naturally repel means you can learn to selectively invite without compromising your protection. But remember, the Sentinel's trap is isolation through over-defense. The counter-aura that defeats you is the Sovereign. Someone whose commanding presence either crashes through your defenses through sheer overwhelming force, or whose energy is so dominant that your defensive posture looks like submission by comparison. Now, let's reveal the most dangerous aura, the one most people never see coming, the shadow veil, the phantom. If you chose the shadow veil, you are the phantom. Your aura is invisible, adaptive, impossible to read. You don't command attention. You don't offer subtle influence. You don't project defensive energy. You project nothing, which is everything. The phantom's aura is absence. You move through social spaces like smoke, present but not memorable, visible but not registered, there but not there. This is the most dangerous energetic signature. The phantom projects what Machiavelli called presenza assente, absent presence, the ability to be in the room without being in people's awareness. Machiavelli barely wrote about this aura in The Prince because describing it destroys its power. But in his private writings, he documented people who seemed to have no energy signature at all, who could stand beside princes and be forgotten, who witnessed crucial conversations and were never suspected because no one remembered they were present. In a coded letter to Francesco Vittori, he wrote, "The most dangerous men are those whom you realize were in the room only after they have left it. This is your aura, phantom. You are energetically invisible. In modern terms, you're the person who overhears everything because people forget you're there, who observes group dynamics without being noticed, who can be in any social space without triggering anyone's radar. Your absence of presence is your presence. Let me tell you about someone history barely remembers, which is precisely why they were so effective. Giovanni Borgia. Not Cesare, not Lucrezia. Giovanni, the forgotten Borgia. Giovanni held no official titles. He commanded no armies. He negotiated no treaties. But he attended every important Borgia family meeting for 20 years. He was always in the room when decisions were made. And yet, in all the histories written about the Borgias, Giovanni is mentioned maybe 5 times, sometimes spelled wrong, often confused with other family members. Why? His aura was pure phantom energy. He projected such complete absence of presence that people didn't register him. Guards let him pass without question. Rivals ignored him completely. Allies forgot to suspect him. He heard every secret, witnessed every betrayal, observed every strategy, and because no one perceived him as significant, no one guarded their words around him. The information he passed to his family, the secrets he gathered, the observations he made, these shaped Borgia power for decades. But history doesn't remember him, because his aura ensured nobody noticed him enough to record him. This is the phantom's power. Your invisible presence gives you access everywhere because you trigger no defensive responses. Sovereign energies don't see you as competition. Advisor energies don't see you as a rival for influence. Sentinel energies don't see you as a threat. You are the person no one remembers to guard against. But here's the trap. And this is what destroys phantoms who don't adapt. Invisible influence creates invisible value. When you operate with phantom energy exclusively, you gain access and information. But you accumulate no status, no recognition, no protection. If you're discovered, if someone finally notices your presence and questions your access, You have no legitimacy to defend yourself with, because your entire strategy depended on not being noticed. Giovanni Borgia experienced this. When the Borgia family fell from power, he had no independent position. He'd accumulated influence but no title, information but no legitimacy. He disappeared from history. Not killed, not exiled, simply forgotten. Because his phantom aura ensured no one ever established his importance. His invisibility gave him access, but not survival. This is your pattern. Your absent presence lets you see everything, but leaves you with no official standing. You gather intelligence. But when power structures shift, you have no visible value to justify your existence. In modern contexts, you're the person who knows all the secrets but gets laid off because no one remembers what you contribute. Who observes every dysfunction but isn't invited to leadership because no one registered your competence. Who has access everywhere but recognition nowhere. Your invisible aura gives you information, but not influence. Access, but not advancement. Here's the strategic adaptation. Observe invisibly, reveal selectively. Your phantom aura is your superpower for gathering intelligence and avoiding conflict. Don't abandon it. But add moments of strategic visibility that establish your value. If you're the phantom, here's your adaptation. Continue your invisible observation, but occasionally deliver information in ways that reveal your competence, not constantly. That destroys your phantom advantage, but strategically. When your information or observation can solve a critical problem, emerge from invisibility briefly to deliver it. This creates a pattern. Phantom most of the time, but occasionally emerging with valuable insight. People start to value your presence even though they still don't fully register it. Develop a relationship with one visible power holder, someone with sovereign or advisor energy. Share your observations with them privately. Let them present your intelligence publicly if that serves you. This gives you protection through association without requiring you to abandon your invisible aura. Create a role that explains your presence. I'm documenting the meeting. I'm handling logistics. I'm the technical specialist. These boring explanations satisfy people's curiosity without triggering their interest. Your phantom aura lets you be anywhere. A boring official reason ensures no one questions why. When threatened, don't defend your position by arguing your importance. That's sovereign energy, and you'll lose because you have no visible achievements. Instead, simply disappear. Become even more invisible. Most threats lose interest in targets they can't fully perceive. Your phantom nature is your ultimate defense. Machiavelli never wrote an explicit rule for phantoms because naming the pattern destroys it. But in his private correspondence, he noted, "The safest position in any court is to be present at every crucial moment while being remembered at none." The Phantom's Law. Observe everything. Register selectively. If you chose the shadow veil, if you felt drawn to it because you moved through life being present but rarely remembered, then comment below. I am the phantom. Claim your aura. Because understanding that you're invisible means you can strategically emerge when it serves you without losing your primary advantage. Counter aura warning. You now know your Machiavellian aura, the sovereign, the advisor, the sentinel, the phantom. But here's what makes Machiavelli's system dangerous. Every aura has a counter aura that defeats it. The sovereign is defeated by the phantom, who avoids direct confrontation with your commanding presence and undermines you through channels you never notice. The advisor is blocked by the sentinel, who doesn't trust your subtle influence and refuses your access through rigid boundaries. The sentinel is overwhelmed by the sovereign, whose commanding energy either crashes through your defenses or makes your defensive posture look like weakness by comparison. The phantom is exposed by the advisor, who notices subtle patterns and realizes you're present more often than chance allows. Understanding your aura is step 1. Understanding your vulnerability to the counter-aura is step 2. If you are the sovereign, your power is commanding presence. Your weakness is attracting dominance challenges. Your defense, radiate authority, but distribute credit to avoid creating enemies. If you are the advisor, your power is subtle influence. Your weakness is being forgotten despite contribution. Your defense. Continue subtle influence, but document your value publicly. If you are the sentinel, your power is protective boundaries. Your weakness is isolation through overdefense. Your defense. Maintain fierce protection toward threats, but develop clear signals for alliance. If you are the phantom, your power is invisible observation. Your weakness is having no legitimacy when discovered. Your defense. Remain invisible most of the time, but emerge strategically to establish minimal necessary value. Machiavelli understood that social survival requires managing your energetic signature. You can't change your natural aura. It's who you are. It's how you unconsciously broadcast your presence to the world. But you can refine it. Weaponize it. Use it strategically instead of being victimized by it. The people who succeed socially aren't those with the best aura. They're those who understand their aura and adapt its expression to the situation. Comment your aura one final time. I am the sovereign. I am the advisor. I am the sentinel. I am the phantom. Claim your energetic signature. Because this isn't a personality test. This is a strategic diagnostic for your social presence. Machiavelli decoded political power to help rulers survive. I'm decoding personal power to help you navigate social dynamics strategically. Like and subscribe to this channel. Until then, study your aura, watch for your counter-aura, and remember. In social dynamics, you're either managing your presence strategically or being controlled by those who understand energy better than you do. Machiavelli wrote, "The wise man does nothing by chance. He controls what he can and prepares for what he cannot." Your aura is what you can control. How others respond to it is what you must prepare for. Choose wisely, project strategically. I'll see you in the next revelation.